Alright guys, he is back. Tris PWN is back, and this time he's going to talk about what I think was the silhouette that was the most intriguing at last year's EasyCon, that baby Corsair. So let's have a look here and let's see what Tris PWN is thinking about. He made an amazing video before. This is part 2. I was really looking forward to watching this
one. And we are back. This is the second of my revisiting the remaining silhouettes videos, where I go deep into speculation territory with the remaining unknown CitizenCon silhouettes and creating my own art.
It's stuck. Great.
And we are back. This is the second of my revisiting the remaining silhouettes videos, where I go deep into speculation territory with the remaining unknown CitizenCon silhouettes and creating my own artworks based on that.
Man, he did that in his, I think it's Unreal Engine, I think it is, right? It's like a virtual office. I mean, how amazing. This guy's so talented.
In the first video I talked about a Medical Atlas variant and a small CNOU base builder that I called the Frontier. If you have already seen that but want some more information on them, I was invited to Space Tomatoes Launch Sequence podcast where we talked about them some more. I'll link that in the description for you. And today I will focus on just the Drake looking one, because there's so much to talk about.
Yes!
Just one more reminder that unless I give you a source, everything in this video should be treated as speculation at best.
Yes, of course. That's a good point. It is speculation. We know nothing about it. CIG is not even communicated on it. I hope that this is going to be something we'll see at DrakeCon. I hope it's one of those ships that CIG have not announced
and in some
yet.
cases not even what I believe to be the most likely, but what I think is an interesting idea. Before I start, there is something I did not get to in the first video, some variation on the Medical Atlas.
Oh, okay.
For once I was reminded that it is actually forbidden to have a red cross in video games, or on toys, or even on medical supplies.
What? Really? Oh my gosh, those regulations.
The Red Cross is an international humanitarian movement and no one but them is supposed to use that. Fun fact. I still did a white one to see how it looks, but the classical game workaround is inverting the colors, and I wanted to add that anyway because it matches the medical terror.
Oh, that's why. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Alright, I guess there are reasons for that.
But now, arguably the most interesting of all the silhouettes by far. I heard so many rumors. The most common one is it being a Drake ship. I also heard it was confirmed by a CIG employee it is not a Drake ship.
What? It's not a Drake ship? It kind of look at those wings there. It's got to be a Drake ship. These are the same wings as the Corsair.
I heard it's an alien ship, but not.
What? That's an alien ship? I mean, what could it be then?
Thing was mentioned more than once, so I will go with the majority and assume it's a Drake ship, because it really looks like one. So from there it was speculated it's the redesigned Caterpillar and Ironclad command module, but I don't think so, because these massive wings would absolutely be in the way when docking, and would also break every ship's individual silhouette. I think a command module needs to be simpler and more exchangeable in shape and design.
Right.
It should not dominate the look of whatever it is attached to. So where to go instead? More than any of the other silhouettes, with this one I was just not sure what I was looking at.
I'd say it's a transport ship.
As with the CNOU ship, let me show you what I read and interpret it into the image before showing my results. This massive block and seemingly the landing gear looks incredibly unaerodynamic, but whatever it is, I expect that to look intentionally misleading from this perspective.
Oh, I see. So maybe there's like some shadows that make it look like that. Alright.
Then I said multiple times that all silhouetted ships are almost at exactly the same angle, so I don't think this one is facing away. And what also supports that are these antennas on the wings. From my memory, sensory antennas in Star Citizen mostly, or maybe universally, point forwards. And then by now we have...
Oh, so we're looking at the back of the ship. That's what he says. Ah.
Dozens of silhouettes that have been revealed and have come out by now, and they have always depicted the lights of the ships, correct. Speaking of the lights...
So this could be the back.
I feel like they can often be a significant hint to the purpose of the ship, and the brightest headlight being so off-center, as well as there potentially only being one, means I should try to find a meaningful use for that light.
Maybe it's just to blind us, you know, maybe that's the only way.
And unlike the others, this one seems to have the outline of a cockpit window, but it's hard to tell. It could be a compression artifact, or again, intentionally misleading, but I went with it for all my predictions.
What What if it's a Banu ship?
Lastly, two things I
that's
could not
really
make sense of for a while. There's this big round shape next to the back wing. I had an idea later on, but in my first sketches I left the area very undefined. And then this long angled line in the front. One guess was an entrance ramp, but this thing would probably be in the way. And this low, there would be barely any
It
interior
could just be
space
the shape
left.
of the ship.
Speaking of which, I measured it
Oh.
out to be about the same wing height as a Corsair, but significantly shorter. So I don't see it being a cargo hauler, even though I have noticed the containers around. And
It could carry some cargo, right? But yeah, probably not a cargo holder. I really want a passenger transport.
I have considered that the whole ship could rotate around the wings, much like the Slave 1 does, but with this silhouette I could not think of any shape where that remotely looked like it would make sense. So, all that said,
All right,
let's
he's
go with
back.
the idea
He's
that I consider least likely first.
Man, look at this guy. How he's drawing everything. So talented. I love what he's doing.
And that I therefore just did a quick and dirty sketch of. I saw quite a handful of comments
Quick-
that interpreted
it's like his quick and dirty sketch is like something I could never do in my whole life.
this massive foot or landing gear thing as a ground extractor. Which brings us back to something I earlier said
A ground extractor, so an industrial
was too
ship.
vague to properly speculate about. They were mentioned with the Pioneer, as well as in the base building showcase in the form of buildable structures, but that is mostly what we know. However, the off-center light would really make sense here, as industrial machines often have floodlights too.
Oh, so that big thing on the ground would actually be the like the machine that would extract resources from
Work
the
at night.
ground.
That would make this thing kind of a mining ship that scans for small ground deposits and then lands to extract them. Design-wise, I tried to tie to the Vulture, the only other industrial ship Drake has so far, and while it kinda looks cool, I honestly think this is very unlikely. First, these massive wings would be very much in the way when you try to mine or work in uneven
Yeah, the
terrain.
wings would be very
More
annoying.
importantly though, I see ground extraction as a feature on big ships like the Pioneer only. You sure could make up some kind of minigame for it, but it honestly
Yeah, I mean, it could be a competitive. I mean, let's remember, Greycat has the Cygnus that does ground extraction like that.
sounds like a very passive and time-consuming gameplay loop that you run in the background because unlike refining, which also takes a lot of time, you can't go somewhere else while it's extracting.
And why
So,
having
back
such
to the
big
outline.
wings, right?
Let's start with the wings because I always complain about them. To me, they are first and foremost giant easy targets. I would not put them on anything that is primarily designed for fighting.
Oh.
The advantages they might bring are better atmospheric flight, as well as a more spaced out sensor array for
Maybe they could help with speed in the atmosphere. Yeah, maybe. I'd say it's a transport ship.
better scanning. Like the Corsair, that is designed as an exploration ship. It being overpowered kinda weakens my point, but I hope you get what I'm saying. Also, I think the big mess at the bottom here is a lot less blocky than it seems on first glance. And here another viewer really helped me out by pointing me to an old Jump Point magazine from December 23. I can't show you, as that is a subscriber exclusive, but you can Google it. And
Of course, I can't show you the subscriber. Come on.
I also
Of course
made
you can.
some sketches of that to try out my color scheme for this one. In that issue, they showed R&D blockings for the Drake Cutter. Some obviously looked like design ideas for that new command module for the
Oh, I see. Wow, these are some really cool designs for the cutter. Yeah, look, there's some of them have those wings there. We can see that here.
Caterpillar and Ironclad, but the wings are a lot smaller on this one, because as I said, they would get in the
What
way
if that
otherwise.
ship, instead of being a passenger transport, because we don't have passenger transport in the game, although it would be a great passenger transport, like a shuttle, right? What if that ship is a medical ship? I know what you would say, Drake already has a medical ship. It's a Cutlass Red, yes, but the Cutlass Red only has a tier 2 bed, tier 3 bed. What if this one, unlike the Cutlass Red, which is a variant of the Cutlass, right? This one would be a dedicated ambulance with a tier 2 bed, which would be a competitor to the Apollo.
But there were other interesting designs, some rather tall and vertical, and then one that showed up multiple times with a big wing on the bottom of the ship, but facing forward. Honestly, that looked very weird and impractical in that configuration, but the angle would fit so perfectly with this line here that I decided to go with it.
Oh, that's funny. Here the wings are asymmetrical. And what could you possibly do with that, like a little ship like
So,
this?
what I came up with is, in a lot of ways, a shortened Corsair, People love that ship, and it was just nerfed, which more often than it should be is an indicator for something similar coming up. And for the bottom wing, if you haven't guessed already, it's pointless like that, but it's supposed to rotate after launch. I'll show that in a second. But while another Explorer between Corsair and Cutter would certainly find a lot of potential fans and sell decently, and I like the look of it.
Oh, it's lacking all the back, right? It doesn't have all of the interior. Where would all the cargo be? Underneath?
I'm not happy yet with the roll. That would be too easy, too similar to the Corsair, and roll in size-wise maybe too close to the Cutlass too. So I went back to the drawing board one last time. Now, before I move on, a small shout out to my Patreon and channel membership supporters. As you may have guessed, the amount of work these kind of videos take is substantial and not really viable on YouTube either. But these generous viewers help me.
I know, because I do some machinimas as well. Right now I'm working on doing the Empire Strikes Back in Star Citizen, and yeah, when you make these long commitment videos, it's not worth the money you're getting on YouTube. You do that for the passion, absolutely, Trist, and you can see how passionate he is.
If you are a member, I have updated the latest scene, so right after this video you can jump back into this very room in your web browser and have a look at everything for yourself. And I have addressed the latest feedback, so now you can crouch with Control and zoom with F to have a better view on some of the lower hanging images.
I love it that he gives access to his office like that.
One of my and many others' first association when we saw that silhouette at CitizenCon was a Lambda class shuttle from Star Wars.
Yes,
it's iconic, and it would not be the first time CIG played with iconic Star Wars shapes to create something similar.
Except that the Lambda class is a luxury vessel, so that couldn't be a Drake then. But it doesn't look like an Origin either.
Looking at the Scorpius or the MSR. And in case you don't know the reference, the Lambda class is mainly for personal transport. But when it comes to passenger transport in Star Citizen,
So could we be looking at the Origin 200 series?
I've only really seen different tiers of luxury, but nothing geared towards the more lower class passengers. And while that would expand the world building, Drake really would not be the first manufacturer that comes to mind if I think about passenger transport. That is, unless.
But why not? You know, why? I mean, Drake is kind of now around there, so they could do like, you know, bare bone passenger transport. You know, just
to transport those passengers against their own will. So for my personal
a prisoner transporter.
Favorite speculative concept for this outline, I made up a bit of history to make it fit. Maybe Drake initially designed this as a personal shuttle to quickly transport people within orbit. Maybe it was the Lorville working class pendant to the Horizon shuttle. Over time it was noticed that it was cheap but also relatively durable, and since it lacked luxury features like windows already, it found another use as a prison barge. This thing flying around places like Clasher Prison would help flesh out their place in the world, and I honestly feel that this shape looks a little menacing already. Also, the light would be another really great fit here as a search spotlight.
Yes,
to
that would
track
be
down
wonderful.
fugitives. It was ultimately not designed as a fighter but an efficiently flying transport, hence the wings. Ideally, you would give it one or two patrol ships to do the fighting instead. I don't even think it should.
Ooh, it would be great with that turret here. Can you imagine that if that is like a prisoner transport? Yes, that would be such a good idea.
These extra turrets. I just wanted to show how a blocky outline could use perspective to hide a much more complex silhouette. And as you can see, by now I have also realized that this round shape is most likely a docking collar that fits the scale of the person too. And while I saw people speculate about a dedicated boarding ship, just as with a fighter, I think a boarding ship should be more compact and have less fragile elements like these giant wings, because it will most likely
another boarding
draw fire.
ship, right? Like a prison
With both
transport.
my passenger shuttle and prison barge, I think it makes sense though, because in the first configuration it's more accessible than walking up a ramp. That's an issue I see with the Spirit E1, for example.
And you know, criminals have prisoners too.
With a prison
they have
barge,
hostages, right?
well, you would just never want to create an opening where someone could escape. But I assume transporting prisoners from one prison to another is not the most interesting gameplay loop. And that brings us back to Star Wars. There's another famous and iconic prison patrol ship that was...
Well, it's not... Yes, but... First, I'm sure there would be players who would like to do that for role-playing. And also, we need to create ships for NPCs as well, not just players.
misused for something else. Bounty hunting. Another gameplay loop we expect to be fleshed out sooner than later. And also another great fit backstory-wise, with another Drake design for a specific civilian or industrial purpose that surprisingly lends itself perfectly for semi-legal jobs. And I would also like it because the dedicated bounty hunting ships we have so far, like the Stalker, the Hawk, are more tailored towards ship-to-ship combat and retrieving a single, mostly dead target.
Yeah, right, but here we also need ships. I mean, I think that the Avenger Stalker can retrieve people as well in the past.
We were told there would be more room for bounty hunting on foot, even within armistice and landing zones with special permissions. So a ship that is less specialized in fast ship-to-ship combat, but could in exchange carry a lot more, maybe slightly less high-value targets, would be a great addition. If you want to take one last Star Wars comparison, we have the Fire Spray, which is very aggressive and very able to take a fight.
Yeah, but no, that ship would not be like a Fire Spray, because a Fire Spray is like all about, dealing with damage as well, right? This is like that's an attack vessel.
Is it great for a certain type of bounty hunter? And then we have the Razor's Crest, which is a lot slower, at least on paper, but of great use for a bounty hunter that takes a more subtle approach, collects plenty of smaller targets here and there, but also kinda lives on that ship. And mine here would obviously be more like the latter of the two. The color scheme here honestly does not make the most sense. I just wanted...
It's okay, he just wanted to put like a Clone Wars color scheme. It could be completely different.
To try the dark red scheme Drake uses for more industrial focused ships, but in this case it makes it stand out a little too much. Doesn't matter, you get the idea.
It looks great.
I do also have to admit that I like the idea with the 3 wings a lot better in my head. It does not work as good and look as cool as I hoped, but I tried to make it fit that shape 100% here. I'm sure CIG could make the idea look a lot better with the final model.
Alright, awesome. I love the idea of a prison ship, guys. CIG, please make this happen. Don't forget to check out Tristan P and PWN. Awesome content creator. I love what he does. And also don't forget to subscribe to this channel as well if you want to see more reactions about pretty much anything. We've got a Discord as well where you can put everything that you want me to react to, so go check it out as well, guys. This has been Erad. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.